Hello, everyone. D. Alfred Ostrowski here. In this recording, I'm going to be going through an example demonstrating the utilization of a resource account on the Aptos network using the Move programming language. I'll be relying extensively on the NFT example that is not in the onboarding tutorials, but rather this is embedded a little bit deeper in the Aptos dev documentation. As usual, I'll be running it on Amazon EC2. And I already have an instance up and running. I'm skipping through that step of bring it up and running for brevity. If you are brand new to Amazon EC2, you might want to look at some of my earlier Aptos development tutorials because I run through the steps of actually bringing up the instance. I'm going to go through the installs, but I'm not going to bring up the instance and work with putty and things like that. I'm assuming you already know that. If you don't, again, I would refer you back to the videos. Again, this is going to be very hands-on. I'm following through my GitHub README install, and that'll be located below this video. So hopefully you can follow along with me. 20 minutes plus or minus, be up and running with Aptos, Move programming, and most importantly, resource accounts, appreciating and understanding the difference between using resource accounts and not using them. Okay, so earlier examples, I did an NFT demonstration with the onboarding tutorial using the NFT creation, but we did a lot of it in TypeScript. So this pushes that to the module. That's the difference here, to give the resource signing capability to the module. That's what we mean by programmatically. Obviously, you're doing it programmatically in TypeScript, but here we're pushing that down to smart contract. Okay, so let's get started. I have my instance up and running, and I have my terminal set here as my client. So I'm going to step through this, and this should go pretty quick. So we're going to get up and running, and then I'm going to go drill down to the move code. There's not a lot of it, and we're going to step through it and give a basic explanation of exactly what's going on. But first, let's get it up and running, because that's the most important thing, right? There's no purpose in explaining something that doesn't work, right? We want a working example, and I think that is going to solidify your understanding of these technologies. Unless you have working copy, maybe you don't like Amazon EC2. Okay, this is a great platform, I found in my experience, to share technology solutions. Okay, and you can have a working example. You can put it on whatever platform or implementation that you so desire. But this cuts out all the admin and all the little variations and tricks and tips that when you go through most tutorials, okay, at least that I find in my experience, okay, what works? Nearly nothing, right, the first time around, or it'll work with a little bit of tweaks or slight modifications or prior experience and so on and so forth. So this allows for a means of having common platform, and we're not going to be worrying about given versions of an operating system. We're all running on the same exact platform. So here I'm running through the node source based version of installing Node. We'll grab a version, Node 20 is before, right? So, and again, if you been through some of the Aptos tutorials, I'm running through the exact same installation. So if you have it up and running, you can fast forward a little bit. And again, moving forward, to try to put a little more editing in these videos and give you the means to just benchmark. But in this case, I don't have that edited at that level, right? So here, we're just going to step through this. It's not going to take a lot of time. Okay, we're almost there with the node source installation. And again, all my significant references are below in the README. Take a look at that. You want to go in the weeds on the node source installation or any of the Unix admin stuff, then feel free to look at the references. It'll give you a lot better idea. And again, I want, for brevity, I'm omitting that and just concentrating on this case with Move and resource accounts, which is a unique capability that you don't typically have in some of the other blockchain networks and programming languages. Okay, so here I'm doing the final install in Node.js. We're going to validate that, and then we're going to do the Aptos installs. And it's only 4 commands. Okay, we're going to be doing it all command line. Okay, we're not going to be doing with TypeScript or Python or Rust or any of the sort of pushing all that work into our Move module, right? All that administrative work, taking an NFT, creating an address, using the Aptos client, so on and so forth. So if you haven't looked at the prior NFT introductory example, look at that. Just go to Aptos Dev, you can take a look at that, or go to my video or reference both and use that as a means of comparison. And that will make it, I think, a lot clearer as to exactly what a resource account is, what it's accomplishing for us, why would we be interested in leveraging this in other solutions. And there's, the more you look at it, I think the more applications you're going to find for this division of work and signing capability that's going to occur within your Move module, and then provide a lot of interesting support from the means of security and enabling your Move modules to accomplish a little bit more. So I validated Node. I'm installing Aptos here. Again, I'm just cut pasting from my GitHub and everything I'm doing. Okay, I'm not going to be stepping through this line by line. You can just simply cut paste and you can dig as deep as you want, basically following through the same steps that I did to get the environment up and running on Ubuntu version 20. And as usual, okay, I'm not interested in custom configuration, just default through that. And here I'm installing the Python pip3. So we're using the pip3 installer to install Aptos SDK. And then we're going to install the core and the CLI, and then we'll be good to go. Okay, so here I default this to do system start, and I just tabbed down to OK, and I hit that, right? Good to go. Wait for that, and again, this doesn't take very long. So I did the pip3 install, and now the Aptos SDK, right? Now that I have pip3, I can use that to install Aptos SDK. Let's get that up and running. Hate to go through this over and over, okay, but we want to make sure that's still working off the cloud. Okay, you're going to change from one day to another, so I'm not going to make fast forward on an older install, and then you're not going to get it done in 20 minutes, right? You're going to be worrying about, well, what changed? Okay, what specifically I have to do to get this to work now that it doesn't work exactly? And you see, every time I run this, I see some new complaints. So again, with the cloud, and we could install do version-based installs. In some cases, something can be deprecated and it'll still change, say, so that doesn't even ensure that you're going to have a guaranteed application up and running. Again, this is the best way I know how to do that, to transfer technology solutions. Key goal here, get up and running and then learn about it, take it wherever you will. Okay, in my opinion, right? Either you did it or you didn't do it, right? Either you implemented a resource account on Move or you didn't. Okay, so I'm trying to get you there as fast as possible. Okay, that's going to give you the advantage over someone who didn't do it, right? Regardless of the platform, right? So here we cloned out the Aptos core, and I'm going to install the CLI, and I'm good to go. Okay, so after this is complete, I'm going to do 3 primary commands. I'm going to use them to create 3 separate accounts. My admin account, tried and true, the Aptos init, ran through the prior examples. You're already comfortable with that, or you have prior exposure. Then I'm going to create a second account using Aptos init, and this will be for the receiver. I'm going to be doing a command line as opposed to TypeScript, which we did in the prior example. And then we're going to do the move, publish, and allocation of the resource account. Okay, so here I have Aptos installed. Let's validate that. Let's go to, and again, I don't have environment variable set up. I did a full qualification. So I'm going to do Aptos is up and running. We validated that. I'm going to run the init. I'm going to default it to DevNet, right? And I'm not going to put in my own, let it generate the key for me, right? So I'm going to take that key. I'm going to buffer that here, right? I'm going to buffer that off this side. And I'm going to use that for reference as I move forward. A couple earlier ones, let's just pull those out, right? And put in the new one there, right? So that's accomplished. So now I'm going to create I'm going to do second init. This is going to be different, right? I'm going to specify a profile, and I'm going to say profile, and I'm just going to give it a name. And this is convenient that I won't have to be copying addresses out here. And I'm going to call it NFT receiver. And same thing, same prompt, right? It's going to give me network. I'm going to put on DevNet. And it gives me an account and a success. Funded it successfully. And let me pull that out here. And we'll save that. So that's account number 2. Now I'm going to be doing number 3. Now to do that, I want to CD down to my specific move examples, and very conveniently, the Aptos team has given us a lot of nice examples. This is a great way for adoption. It reminds me of Apache Spark back in the day. We used some nice suite of examples baked in with your install that you have to pull out externally. And the closer it is to the source, you know it, okay, the better it runs, okay, the more higher likelihood of it actually running the first time through. So here we go to Aptos core, Aptos move examples, minft. And again, this isn't a part of the onboarding tutorial. It's a little extended from that. And it's a series of examples. This is the most demonstrative, in my opinion, to get you up and running. So here, the next command, I'm going to do a move, create resource account, and publish package. Let's step through this, okay, as I stage it offline because it's a lengthy command, right? I'm going to put in a feed number. I'm going to specify the address name for mint NFT, which I'll be relying on later. And then I'm going to default the profile, okay? And that is going to say, hey, don't specify a specific address for the resource account. I'll just allocate one for me. And then I put name, address, source address, and this is the initial account name that I created with my Aptos init, okay, that I specified here, and I buffered that conveniently because I know I was going to be relying on it here. So put that in my source address, and I'm going to take it, this long command, and put this here and run it. Specifically, make sure you run it under the right directory. Okay, so this does the, I'm gonna have to do separate compile. This does the compile, publish, creation of the resource account that you see here, and it's prompting me for that, and also funds it, right, which is super convenient. So this is doing a lot of work for me, okay, from the command line. And it gave me an address, and I'm gonna want to store this off, right? So I can use it for future reference, right? So, and there we go. So now let's run the account, and I see I have the, you see I have the command here buffered. But where did I get these commands? Okay, this was baked in the source code. We'll take a look at that in a second. Let's get it up and running. Okay, look at the Explorer and confirm it. Then we can go back right down the source code, right? So here we take that address, and I'm going to step through this command. Let me just stage it appropriately. And then we can take a good look at it just before we run it. It's just, I'm doing an Aptos here. I'm doing a move run. As we've run with the first move module example, we did a move run. Okay, here we're specifying function ID. Here we have a more complete specification. I have address, module name, function name. Okay, both separated by the double colon, and the profile NFT receiver. Okay, I specified that with the second Aptos init command. And that's really convenient, right? I have a mnemonic there as opposed to worry about copying the address and getting that right. So let me just run that. So what's going to happen here is going to create my NFT internally in the move module. And then it's going to allocate it internally using the signer capability that's being allocated that I've handed over. So I gave that move module the capability to create and allocate it to another account all internally, where in comparison, and again, I encourage you to take a look at that NFT, whether you looked at it or not, at least review it, okay? Instead of pulling it out and doing all this transaction with the NFT, it's all being managed and authenticated internally in my module. So that provides some unique capability. So I have transaction hash here. And did it occur? Did it actually work? Well, let's see. Okay, so we're going to take that transaction hash and store that appropriately. And proofs in it, right? We're going to go to the DevNet Explorer and we can break that down and confirm that it actually worked appropriately. So a couple interesting things happened to me in very recently with the DevNet. Okay, DevNet was down, or for whatever reason, really couldn't access it. So I just waited and it came back up. So I don't know, it was down for the holiday or whatever, but you might want to try it again or give it some time, right? If there's something wrong with it, or they're doing some kind of maintenance or whatever. But here, make sure on DevNet and make sure that you are searching transactions and not just your account. So here I pull the transaction that's confirmed, right? So I know that I already have the confidence that it's there. So I had a successful run status. This looks really good, right? And I have a sender smart contract and it's running the same function. I want to make sure that what I tried to do actually worked, right? And if it's going to show up in Explorer, then you know, right, that it executed appropriately, especially as the confirmation of success. And I can validate the addresses appropriately. I have the sender, that's 08D5C, right? And that was my receiver, and the smart contract, it's my resource account, right? And that was created from the create resource and publish package, the 03D00, and that ran appropriately. So I have the confirmation here, and I can even look it up from the, also from the account. Well, let's look it up from the NFT account, right? Let's do that, the receiver account. And I can go under validators here, and I can punch that in. And that's confirmed. And I have same thing, create NFT with resource account. And it even has the code. So I have a confirmation, everything that happened, and I validated it. So let's look at the source code, break it down, and get a little deeper understanding. But the good thing is we got it up and running, and that's always a positive, right? So here, I drilled down under the source directory of where we CD'd to in the Aptos core. So we have create NFT with resource account, move. Let's step through this line by line, right? So I have some documentation. That's how I learned how to run it, right? You look at the source code here, and you want to compare it against the first, this is the second NFT tutorial in a series of embedded NFT tutorials in the Aptos developers documentation, right? So here I have min-NFT, create NFT, the resource account, it's the module name and the address. Pull in some of the usual libraries. What's unique to this example? I pull in the Aptos token data ID, and most importantly, signer capability. That's the capability of being able to receive that information and manage this administrative control internally, programmatically within my module, right? So here I have module data that's going to store this signer capability and token data ID. The capability and also the associated token data, right? Next, I have init module. This is unique to this example compared to prior examples here. Init module runs somewhat of a constructor style fashion for those of you who are more well-versed in other programming languages. In most cases you are, because Move is relatively new, right? So init module runs in the publication of that module. I don't have to invoke it. It just runs behind the scenes as an initialization type module, almost in a constructor type fashion. So I have the resource signer being passed in, that's passed in automatically. And what do we see here? If you compare to the earlier NFT example, a lot of that same metadata is handled, managed internally in my Move module, okay, per design. So that's the inherent difference between working with a resource account and not using a resource account here. So the collection name description, and for those of you who have some prior exposure to NFTs, okay, this should be resound in very similar fashion, right? And a lot of similarities between here, and also it means comparison will be Solana implementation NFTs as well as Ethereum, but a little bit more with Solana, I would say. So here I have a vector mutate setting, and that is going to allow for mutation of the collection description as I identified here. So now I'm going to create the NFT collection, and I'm going to create the actual token data. Okay, and that's under the token library. And a couple extra capabilities are being set here. The create token mutability. This allows me to essentially give that permission to store the associated metadata information associated directly with that token, specifically what I'm doing specifically in this module, right? With the given to an address, taking the associated transactional information, storing that with the token. The retrieve resource account, that is kind of the response to the publication module, right? The publication, I created the resource account. This actually reads it in from the command line interface that we did prior. And then I'm going to move that to the resource accounts capability within the module. This solidifies that action, the capability of allowing it to do the signing and transfer of that module. So that's the init module that runs again with the publish command behind the scenes, okay? Then I call that move run, and I call mint event ticket. Acquire the module data, which is that signer capability and the token data information, the metadata associated with the token. And here I do the borrow global mute that allows me to pull in the global information with the module data from min NFT. I'm pulling the resource signer from that module, and I support the minting of that token. And then I do the transfer to the receiver, right, to the NFT account. That was the second account I created with the NFT profile. I grab the associated token ID fields and set the associated properties to update that property version of that specific token as it's being sent to the separate account, again, all programmatically. So that's it. That's all that is really handled in this module. So this is a great way to step into the application resource accounts. I hope this helps. As usual, everything's documented on the GitHub associated with this video. Thanks for listening. Hope you liked it, and take care. Talk to you soon. Bye now.